before I go right into doing the fuzz, I just thought I'd point out the struts. Now you're going to need to put in for your closed loop system, or your pull system if you like, these retainers. Now what happens is the cables will come off the bell crank or your servos, depending on which way you've chosen to go, and they'll need to go to the top of your struts and the bottom of your struts. These are the inner struts closest to your fuzz, not to be mistaken with your cabanes. Your cabanes are these, not these, the first struts next to them. Okay, and one will be for your rudder and the other one will be for the elevator. Now I've used, I think it's, do you know what, I've put the darn thing down now. What have I done with it? Here it is. I've used 364 brass rod, and it's soft enough to bend with your bending pliers, which I have some here. If you haven't got any bending pliers, these are pretty good. I've overused it. I've bent it using a tougher wire than what these are designed for. But anyway, these are pretty cool. Let's get yourself some of them if you've got some spare cash. Bend these into a U shape. I popped a 1.5mm hole through these because I haven't got the right drill bit, and then the other side you basically bend them over and then you epoxy them. It doesn't look very nice, but at the end of the day, you know, as I said to Cliff, this is not for a competition. Okay, if I was doing a competition, I'd completely change the way I'm building this. So I just want to reiterate that. So you'll end up with 4 struts, front and back, looking something like that. Okay, and then it's quite obvious then that the cables go through there, and there's the other sides. I have pre-painted the outer struts red and white. I've only done the outside because I'm not making a show model. I just want it to look something near. If you want to do the other side, you can. It's up to you. I'm just trying to save time because you have to wait for the paint to dry. I did make a mistake. Now the reason I made a mistake is because the red and white needs to be opposite ends. So if this is the front, the red and white needs to be the opposite pattern, and unfortunately I did them the same, so they're sort of like that. So I had to redo it, and it's gone pink. Oh God, there you go. So that's the struts done. Right, now I am experimenting with the motor, and to save myself a whole lot of time, I bought this. It cost me £2.50, I think it was, and this is adjustable. This is the plate, okay, and this slides along here, so you get it to where you want. Chop the end off, and that goes on, so like that. Obviously got to be glued on, and that extends your motor out. Now I've got to measure all that out. I haven't finalised anything, but that's the plan so far. I might change my mind completely yet, because this will then go like that, or something like that anyway. Yeah, this is the F4 for the fuzz. Okay, so got that out of the way. Now then, the bell crank. I was in two minds about this bell crank because I thought, man, this is going to be difficult. I'm not going to say it was easy or anything like that. I think unless you're actually au fait or do these quite a lot, but I wanted to do this because I just think it's going to be better. Now with the Velcro, this is for the elevator, okay. Now this is all made of brass, everything's brass on this, okay, and it is a bit of a fiddly bit, but the rods are 1/8, and you need the appropriate tube to go over that 1/8, which will be whatever it is. I'm sorry, I can't remember what size they are, and if I'm being honest, I just dropped the wife off at the airport, and that was 2 o'clock this morning, and I didn't get home till about 6 o'clock, so I haven't had a lot of sleep, so please forgive me. But basically you want a 1/8 brass. I don't like mixing two types of metals if I can help it, so I've made it all brass. Right, so you need to make sure that this horn here is identical to that one, and that's really where it sort of gets a bit sort of like difficult to do. You know, I mean, it's not that difficult to do, but you know, you gotta be on your game to make sure that they both line up, because you know you're controlling two different sizes of the same model. Now let me think. Now you got, this is 4mm ply, so what happens is that you'll cut a slot here and here to accommodate that. So in essence what you'll have is that ply is stuck to the inner side of the fuzz, okay. Don't glue this brass tube here straight away, just make sure you've got everything right, and when you've got everything right, you can then glue in the brass tube, because that's still moving, and of course if you push it out to the outer limits, yeah, that secures the movement. So I'm just trying to move it into place there. It secures this movement, it'll stop it moving like this. So when you've got everything in the right place, then make sure that the tubes are fully pushed out, and then just drop a bit of CA on the back of them, and that will stop this doing that. Yeah, that makes sense. And then that there will be controlled by a servo, and that'll do the elevators. So there you go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at mounting the engine, mounting the motor. It's lack of sleep. Mounting the motor, and looking at getting the servos in to the bottom for the elevator and for the rudder, which goes in this section here. Now I do have some bits and bobs for that. Can I put my hand on them readily? I do not know. Now, if I can, let's have a look, because there was a neat little trick I'm trying out, and I'm trying to see if I have the bits. Can't pick anything up. Ah, here they are. Okay, now you know those little collets you get with servos, these things. So what I'm going to do is, as the rudder servo goes at the back, and the cables come out that's connected to the horn underneath, I thought I'd pop those into the size of the fuzz, because this is quite soft balsa, and that will stop the wire cutting into the balsa. So that's the solution I came up with for that. I might cut these down a little bit, and that then should be that. So if my calculations are correct, it should start, the fuzz should start looking as it should do. And if it does start looking as it should do, I will finish off the nose. I will put some covering on the outside of the fuzz, and then it's going to start looking like something like it should. And if you do copy this, then well done. You've done very, very well indeed. Okay. For the moment, there you go. Now, this is purely a dry fit. There's nothing glued here. Using that small extension, I figured out that I needed to come 25mm rear with the motor, and because of the way that the mount is constructed, this now allows me to put the dummy engine on as well. And if I've got my measurements right, which I hope I have, the prop, which will go here, should now miss the wings. Not by much, I'll admit, but it should miss the wings. So obviously I won't know until I glue this in and pop the wings on, but if this is correct, then this is the way forward. So just to give you another angle on that, if you this is the extended mount here. Okay, so I've measured everything out, cut the mount down so it's 25mm from the back here to the front, and I'll take that false motor off. So now you've got that just slips over the top like that, and I think that may be the solution. I'm hoping that it is, because if it is, it means I can move rapidly forward. So yeah, I'm going to try it out and glue it in. Right, I have temporarily fitted the top wing, and that, excuse me, that prop misses, well, by millimeters. So I think the best suggestion is to fit that bulkhead in and just add washers to about 4mm maybe, and that then should be enough to clear everything. Width wise we're okay, because there's no way we're going to hit that or that. It's hitting this trailing edge here, so I think just by adding washers that's going to do it, and that's what I'm going to do next. How about that? Right, well, for those of you who are following along or building this project, this is the system I've come up with and I've put it in. Now, I don't think there's enough travel, but I may be wrong. And I think perhaps it also depends, I think, upon the size of your servo. I think I wouldn't want to go bigger than what it is. This is a 9 gram. Just give you a side view on that. See what you think. But that angle there is the natural resting place. So yeah, I think, I'm not sure what I think actually, but we'll have to wait and see till the whole thing is put together. So just so you can see how things work, you know, from a different angle. I mean, obviously, you know, you can replay this at your leisure if you're building this, and you can stop, start it, pause it. But anyway, just so you get all the angles, I will probably do an infill here at a later date, but I'm not going to infill anything just yet because you know, you might want to change something. I may not even cover the bottom till after it's flown, because if I cover it or do all these other things, you know, I've got to take everything out again and rejig it. So I think, you know, that's the way it's going to be for now. What I did do was I actually, and again against my better inner feelings, I've hot glued the servo in. Normally I'd put wood in and everything else, but I think, you know, I'm trying to learn this myself, and I don't think there's going to be any great strains with this strain on this model. It's not going to be a highly aerobatic one. If it's going to be highly aerobatic, that would definitely, you know, be surrounded in wood and all sorts of things. But anyway, there you go. That's the mechanism, and we'll have to see how it goes. Actually, do I have? Yes, here's the drawing. Oh. So you'll see the horn there is offset, and this is also offset, so I think that pretty well goes along with the drawing. Okay, so let's move on. Do you know, I got so into what I was doing, I very nearly forgot to video my progress. So if I missed anything out, I do actually apologise. Okay, we're now ready to put the top cover on, but what have I done since then? Well, I've covered the nose. Now, it's not my best work in the world, but I've covered it anyway. And this is just pure foam. I half expected the foam to shrink or something, but it didn't, so it was okay. So that's gone on. I've cut a little slot there to go in the nose, so that, you know, any the receiver can go in there if needs be, or put lead weights in if needs be. It's quite tail heavy at the moment, mainly because we have the motor on there now, and that's what it looks like. I've covered the fuzz with the beige. There's nothing particular about it. I have two. Now, do I have them at hand? No, I don't. Oh, I do, yes. Now, see these normally go into mounts for servos, and what I've done is I put two of these brass collets either side of the fuzz to allow the control cable to run through, because this is soft balsa, and if I don't do that, it'll just, well, seesaw a line all the way along and just cut the fuzz in half. So that's to protect the fuzz. I've put the speed controller in, the ESC. The cables are now in for the servos, and you can just see there the mount for that motor. Then underneath, as you've previously seen, you've got the servo for the elevator, and I've just mounted the servo for the rudder, and you can see these little collets here and here. I have a little collet retainer there for the push pull system, and at the moment I've just got them wound up on the sides there, and that's about it for now. So that's all in. So the next step is to put the cover on the top, and then put the green skin on top of it. You may have not noticed I've added the spark plugs, by the way, to the motor there and the leads, so it just gives that little bit more detail into it. and that's the inside. So I'm going to show you that before I cover it. This is why really I'm updating this video, to show what it looks like without the cover on, so you got some sort of idea of how I've gone about it. I mean, I'm not saying it's the correct way to do it, you can do it your own way, but that's what I've done. And the battery will go snugly in there, and I just add a little bit of Velcro to stop that from moving around. Okay, so there you go. That's what it should look like. Well, that's what I think it should look like. So I'll put the cover on now. Watch this space. I'd like to round off the videos about the fuzz now, because you know, the length of the videos and everything. So I've finished off covering the nose. I had to do that in 4 parts. I tried to do it in 1 part, but I needed an extra pair of hands, so I couldn't achieve it. But as it is, all the cables are through now. So the cables from the servos are running through the wing, now go into the fuzz around about here. It was a bit fiddly because I had to put this on first, but hey ho. Got them through eventually, so that's that pair there, and I've left them stuck together so that I don't get confused later on as to what cable's which. So all the cables are in, battery connection with the controller, speed controller's in, the rudder cable's in, elevator cable's in, and can't remember what that does. Oh dear, I'll soon find out. So yeah, of course I'll tidy all this up some later date. So here are the control cables for the rudder either side. Now I've not glued this in to the top wing just yet because I have to get the angle of incidence correct, and I'm going to show you how to do that shortly. And I've drawn on the fuzz where the wing goes, where it should seat, so it actually tilts back about 4 degrees. Yeah, so if you draw it on the side of the fuzz, you can't get it wrong. I don't know whether you can pick it up, but I've got it in soft pencil on here, and I did that by making a cardboard template and drawing around it before I put the bottom wing on there. So that's now ready for gluing in, and then I'll make a template for gluing the top wing in, and I'll show you that shortly. Gluing the bottom wing onto the fuzz. Now the motor's already in, so it's tail heavy at the moment, which means you can rest it on the 4 cabanes and just turn it upside down. You'll note there's some pins in here. Because I've drawn the shape of the wing onto the fuzz, I know what the angle of incidence should be. So in actual fact, the tail end should be slightly up by about 4 degrees or so at the back end. And sorry, it should be, yeah, if it's upside down, that'll be pointing up, the back end will be pointing up, and the leading edge will be pointing down, so you get the correct angle of incidence there. So therefore I'll just put some pins through the balsa to hold it into place. Now I've used epoxy resin and to just gluing the main spar, just the main spar along here and the sides there, okay, and just letting it set. Once that's set, I will then wick some more epoxy into the gap between the fuzz and the wing, and then just let it go off, and then I'll start looking at the putting in the top wing.